And in the midst of that structure, he takes Ezekiel to an altar. And Ezekiel notices that on the side of the altar, the right side of the altar, inside of the temple, inside of the Holy of Holies, there's a drop of water coming out. Listen to me now. There's a drop of water coming out. And it drips and drips and drips. And the guy takes Ezekiel out of the temple to follow the trail of water that's drip, drip, drip. And they get to a certain point, and this water that's drip, drip, dripping is about ankle high. The guy continues to walk, and Ezekiel presumably is behind the guy, maybe holding on to the rope. And they get to a point where the water is, listen to me, now it's about knee high. Drip, drip, drip. When the river is rising, drip, drip, drip. Now, they walk out, and they get to a point where the river is about waist deep. Drip, drip, drip. The river is rising, and it's about waist deep. The guide is still walking, and Ezekiel's still walking behind the guide, that is, Son of Man is. And then they get to a point where now, drip, 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 it's like a rushing river. And Ezekiel can't even imagine how to cross the river. Listen to me. Ezekiel cannot imagine how to cross the river. Drip, drip, drip to a mighty river. And Ezekiel is so panic-stricken. Ezekiel stops. And that's where we come in with this verse that says, Son of humanity, have you seen this? Now, see, it's important how he says that. Son of man, have you seen this? Or son of man, have you seen this? Or what is this that the being is referring to? When this being realizes Ezekiel is not going anymore into this water, the being turns around and guides Ezekiel back to the mouth of the river, the bank of the river. Then he begins to show him some things. He said, well, now, I want you to take a look at this water. And notice that inside of this water, there are fish again. Look on the sides of the banks of the river, and you notice there's some trees. And these trees are bringing forth fruit. And this is near something called the Dead Sea. But near the Dead Sea, the trees are bringing forth fruit 13 times a year. And not only are the trees bringing forth fruit, Son of Man, from that drip, 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 but the leaves from the tree, are for the healing of the people. Drip, drip, drip. In the midst of your fear, in the midst of your doubt, in the midst of your exile, in the midst of your sense of forsakenness, you didn't pay attention to one thing. Drip, drip, drip. Ha! You don't need to go very far. Just drip, drip, drip. But coming from the throne of the living one. See, because the altar wasn't just an altar. The altar was also the place that was very close to the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant was not just a little bitty box, but it was a rectangular being that had inside of it not the 10 commandments, but the 10 utterances. Do you hear what I just write that down? It was the 10 intonations. It was the 10 vibratory frequencies of life. And so once a year, the priest would go into this Holy of Holies and intone the sacred sound. And in intoning the sacred sound, the echo would come back. Where there's death, there's life. Where there's hopelessness, there's hope. Where there's bondage, there's freedom. All you have to do is listen. Listen. Not with the outer ear, but with the inner ear. Back to the river. The river is rising. The challenge seems to be overwhelming. But Ezekiel also learns that the drip, drip, drip is the water of life. And that this water of life rejuvenates everything, including his own life. But now here's the irony. Like Ezekiel, we have a tendency to ignore the small things because we're looking for the big thing. But Ezekiel had to learn that the big thing begins with the small thing. And even beyond that, it even begins with the no thing. Not nothing, but the no thing. That which is substantial, that which is creative, that which is in consciousness, that which is waiting to come forth, that which is waiting to just drip, drip, drip in your imagination. That's where it is. It's not out there anywhere. Because I need to tell you something else. There was no temple. There was no tabernacle. Everything in the book of Ezekiel is taking place in only one place. In his mind. Did you hear what I just said? Everything that was happening was not historically located. Everything from chapter 1 to chapter 48 is happening in his mind. It's his mind that has to be transformed. And once his mind is transformed, his reality is transformed. Say that again. Once his mind is transformed, then his reality is transformed. That works both ways. All the issues, all the doubts, all the fears, all the sense of degradation was first and foremost in his mind. Now, it manifested itself externally, but it began in his mind. And the living one sends to him a helper. Sometimes you can't make it by yourself. Sometimes you need a helper. So he sent the helper all the way, that is the living one, all the way from the heavens to Ezekiel to show him how to transform fear and doubt and negativity into faith and hope and possibilities. And so through the whole book, Ezekiel is learning how to be transformed. But it doesn't end there. After Ezekiel's vision of the new temple and the new reality, Ezekiel discovers that the name of the place is not New Jerusalem, and it's not the old Jerusalem. The name of the new reality is simply, the living one is there. Did you hear what I just said? The living one is there. There where? There where? They're everywhere. Yes. But specifically, the living one is there. The living one is in his mind. The living one is in his mind. The new Jerusalem is in his mind. The new possibility is in his mind. The new reality is in his mind. The temple is in his mind. When the river is rising,